Awesome, Laura. Within a company, that's great. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Oh, good on you guys. Love that. Okay, so that'll be really good. I can take it from an ownership perspective within the company as a marketer is also good too. So I'll skew both directions. But what essentially this is about is how to, differentiation is always how you will stand out in the market. And everyone goes, how do you do that? Well, great. We're going to talk about it today. So this one is called your brand's foundation and your unique positioning. So let's get to it, shall we? All right, so first off, that's me there, in case you haven't noticed. I'm Tara. I've been in the brand and marketing space for over 18 years. I have been running Your One and Only for 8 years as a founder, so that's been super fun. So everyone that runs a business, you will know exactly where I'm coming from with that. I'm a mum of two boys. I am a brand strategist and a visual designer. So started off as a junior designer, worked my way up into brand strategy, which has been super fun. I'm an ADHDer, in case you haven't pegged that yet. And I'm also an empathetic straight shooter, which means that I can be a nice person, but I say it really straight. So that's just a rundown of who I am. First, let's talk about emotion, because this is probably the core of every brand. And so emotions are the invisible hand that guides our decisions, obviously more powerful than logic or reason. Now, I should preface that I've been studying behavioral science at uni. So I know that as well. So when I start talking about decision making a little bit, that's why. So has anyone heard of the Pepsi paradox before? Oh, this will blow your mind. So remember when they used to do the Coke blind testing, the Coke and Pepsi? Does everyone remember that? They used to like test them out. Might be before your time. But anyway, so they had a blind taste testing where they got participants to choose which flavor they liked better, whether it was, whichever one it was, they weren't labeled. Overwhelmingly, it was like 90% chose Pepsi as the flavor that they preferred. But when they took the label, like they took the, bag off and showed the label, it actually switched the second time around and everyone went to Coke. And the reason that was because they found that the memory system and what they recognized from the brand Coke, all of the associations that came up actually made them choose Coke over the taste of Pepsi. To me, that blows my mind. So that just goes to show you the power of brand and what it can do with our decision making. So here it says, despite being told that the unlabeled cup could contain the same drink, subjects overwhelmingly favored the cup labeled Coke, highlighting the power of brand over taste in consumer preference. So it can actually sway someone, even if your product is better, to choose an opposing brand. So there are different parts of our brains that actually work when we're choosing to make a decision. And so we need to think about this not only as we make choices as business owners or within, within a business, but also as the consumers are looking to choose us. So everyone will say there's a right side and a left side of the brain. You can just throw that right out the window. That's like a load of rubbish. It's actually multiple parts of your brain that are working in unison to come up with a choice. So you've got one that, remembers, one that feels, one that decides, and obviously one that rewards us for using brands that we like. So that's where you'll start to see that consistency come in, the way you say a message and you continue it, and like all of your brand personality. You obviously don't have to understand a brain scan, by the way. This is just me going, look, I know science. So, that's just there for you guys to have a look at. And if you also want the slides, I'm happy to send them to you at the end. But people don't choose between things, they choose between their feelings. So we're not just selling products or services, we're actually selling emotion. I don't know if you've noticed, but if anything ever taps the emotion, you're more than likely to remember that brand. And so the role of emotions in decision-making works as it drives attention, obviously. It influences perception, it shapes memories, and it guides our decisions. So like if you think about, there was actually a reel that I saw yesterday that showed the Disney sound changing from the beginning of the movies. I don't know if anyone saw that, but yeah, they listened to it and they've enhanced it and they've evolved it. And it just showed a group of guys listening to the new version and how much they hated it because they changed it. And the reason that they hated it so much is because there is emotion around like memories of watching childhood movies when you're growing up. And that beginning tune to the Disney soundtrack is actually something that's embedded in the way that we'll engage with something. So they're all just like, nope, I don't like it, get it off. It's actually really funny if you want to watch it. So I don't know if you've heard of Brene Brown. She's out there. She's a qualitative researcher. So basically, she talks about like the why behind the what and getting into the heads and hearts of your customers and understanding what makes them tick. So here's another really cool case study. So recently, Mars have been like really heavily involved in neuromarketing. So that's basically like understanding our unconscious drivers when we choose something to buy. And you know, someone may say to you, I always say that the perfect example of this is like that scene in The Notebook when he's like, "What do you want?" She's like, "I don't know." It's exactly like that. So what happened here was that they found that the Mars bar wasn't selling as much, and they couldn't figure out why. So they run what's an fMRI machine. Basically, they ask you a series of questions when you're in this machine, and they watch your brain activity and how you kind of respond to the stimuli. And what they found was that women weren't choosing the Mars bar because the old, you know, glossy wrapper made them feel like it was a guilty choice at the checkout. So they weren't choosing it because it made them feel bad. So they actually went to, and they asked them through a series of questions. It wasn't like, "Oh, hey, do you feel guilty buying this Mars bar?" They're going to be like, "No." So they asked a series of questions that made them get to that answer. And what they found was, yeah, it was the wrapper. So they changed it to a matte wrapper and obviously added all that nice greenwashing on top of it, you know. But then they increased their sales by up to 20%. So, you know, if we're thinking in terms of the Mars bar, that's like millions and millions of dollars just because they changed the packaging wrapper to be matte instead of gloss. So these tiny touch points that people like think, "Oh, it's just that," can be like such a massive breaker, you know? So social listening is always going to be your secret for unfiltered feedback. So what I say when I mention this is basically like I am like reading and consuming just as much as I am, you know, doing our own stuff. And it's so important, and as I will discuss, you know, throughout this presentation, is that culture and the societal narrative plays a huge role in how we're choosing brands, how we're aligning with brands, but also people like shit on their competitors real well in the comments section. If someone doesn't like you, they are definitely saying so. So it's always really good to go and look at the competitors' comment sections and their reviews online and just have a look at what people are saying. And then you just do better in that area and win-win. You've already beaten them in one area. So social feedback is a really good area. But first, something that's really important: what is a brand anyway? So I ask this question a lot, and a lot of people say, "Oh, it's the colors and it's the logo and the font." And you're like, "Well, yes, but it's actually so much more than that." So when you're looking at a brand, you have to look at it like an ecosystem. So what we're looking at here is obviously a thumbprint because it's evident of identity, but it is an identity. So think of you as a person. Your visual identity is essentially the clothes that you wear, and your voice and your messaging, well, that's who you are as a person and what you stand for and what you believe in and the conversations that you will have. And your tone of voice, which I haven't mentioned here, but your tone is essentially how you change the way that you say things. So if you're with your friends, you're definitely not going to be having the same tone of voice as if you were to rock up on LinkedIn and, you know, write or even speak to a customer. There's a whole persona. It's like your phone voice, right? Your phone voice versus your friend voice. And everyone knows that that's a complete lie when your friends are like, "Why are you talking like that?" So yeah, so that's the whole thing. Your values and purpose, obviously, you know, what it is that you stand for, what it is that you believe in. If you're all about sustainability, then that would obviously come through the way that you do things. Why you're in business in the first place is obviously a reason. We all start with a reason. And that's like, you know, what's driving you? Like you could work for someone else. So if you're not working for someone else, why? So think about that. That's probably where I would always start. There's obviously behavior and actions, like I just said them with greenwashing. I don't know if they were, don't take my word for it. But like some brands will rock up and they will say that there's something and then they'll do a completely different thing. And then everyone's like, "Hang on, that's not what you just said." And then people read through like a book these days. People are savvy now. Like they are savvy. There's no longer the days where brands can lie. They will find out. They can bullshit detect really well. So it's this, and it's they're able to find that. So, you know, it's how you lead, it's how you behave, it's the stories you tell, and I'll tell you that in a minute. Customer experience, obviously, if they've got a really shitty experience with you, they're not going to come back. they're going to tell them. I always say there's that one chair leg and you're wobbling and you try and shove a napkin underneath it to try and balance it out. So this whole time, your friends are chatting, they're having the time of their life. Your food comes, it's cold, you have to flag, get a new order. By the time you get to the end of that night, you've had this series of events that make you have such a bad experience. But none of that could have happened to the friends sitting across from you. They could have had a really great experience. And so that's where personalization comes in, is that two people could go into the same restaurant and have the exact same experience. One could be shit, one could be great. So it's really good to understand those touch points about what some people will like and what some people won't like. So that's the customer experience, the end to end from product to, right through. And then obviously relationships and service funnel into that. Legacy you build, if you were to pass the business on or you leave, what is it that's left? If you're out of that business, can it exist without you? And if you are not in it anymore, what is it that's left of it? And then the culture and community. Obviously you're building something. What is it that you're building? What is it that people are loving you for? The culture and community, I could say, is probably the most important thing that brands need to be building right now. The most, right? If you have a group of people that will advocate for you, they're like your little minions. They just go out and champion your brand. You want those people. Champion the minions. What I would say, it's retention. Make sure that you keep them coming back, make them really, really happy. So coming back to stories to tell is something. This is my story. So in 2019, my firstborn he's now 5. He's fine, by the way. I should preface that. Was born with a liver disease called biliary atresia. And by 2020, he needed a transplant at 7 months old. So this is us at Westmead Kids Hospital during COVID. Super fun. Don't recommend it. Between 2022, we had 2020 and 2022, we had 37 hospital stays while juggling a new baby with colic and severe sleep deprivation. Also, don't think that that's a great idea to ever have for anyone else. But 2022 was a real rock bottom for me. And I feel like this is such an important story to share because everyone decides to share a highlight reel with business and they never share the bottoms. And when they do decide to share the bottoms, it's only when they've come out of it at the top. So I want you to know that, it's okay if you go through some shit times, because everyone does. And if they're in a really high time at the moment, either they haven't had their shit period or they've had one and they just don't want to share it. So right now I can tell you from behind the scenes, there are a lot of business owners that are dealing with crap. So if you're finding it really hard, chin up. It's literally the narrative of every business owner, and find support where you can. So obviously I had a really good group of friends around me. You lose people, you win people, but obviously this was a real pivotal time for me because I was able to find the stuff that I really liked to do. It really helped me to find my focus on what I wanted to do with the business. And it also helped me to figure out who I wanted to align with. So I came across when I was doom scrolling Instagram, because I do that. I think everyone does. And I had a nice post that said the only person that can achieve your goals is you. And it called me out of my bullshit a little bit. So I kind of got back on my horse and did my thing. So straight after that, I made some decisions. I became a spokesperson last year for the Donate Life campaign. That was the press conference at Westmead. I met Jacinta Ardern. I thought that was pretty cool. Connections. I started to write for media, which is actually a lot easier than you think. So if you guys have something to say, I shared something with Jenna the other week about Source Bottle. If you guys aren't on that, get on it. They ask for people within certain topics for you to be able to give your contribution, and then you can be seen as an authority. That's something that you kind of want to build, because when you start to become a name in your industry, then people will start to notice you, and that's kind of a personal brand building. So get onto that, because writing into media obviously gives you a bit of shtick. If someone sees your name, you can just say, I'm featured in, it's actually, it's one of those things. And then I obviously started to do some speaking and got back into the game again. So that's me. That's my story. I think it's important because, it's not glossed over, and every one of you will also have your own stories. So don't be afraid to bring your personal stories into the mix, because people do resonate with emotion. And I can tell you now, the vast majority of people that are clients of mine are either mothers. And I had 3 clients come to me that had sick kids off the back of me sharing that story. And obviously I have every single person that's got ADHD like me too. And then it's it can be a real hit or miss, that journey. So, it's like we either get our stuff together or we don't. But what I say right now is that we're currently experiencing a major shift in what I call cultural currency. Don't know if anyone's watched the news lately, but could add that slide in. The Me Too effect actually changed the way that women connected with one another. We saw complete narratives change with the way that people would talk basically we've seen it around everywhere, the way that people would talk. We see trash mags no longer around. They used to pit women against each other, and then suddenly they started to share their stories and experiences. That completely changed the game. We saw the George Floyd impact during COVID when everyone was literally stuck on their phones. We saw this happen right in front of our faces, and everyone was just like, whoa, what's going on? So this actually had a bit of impact. But the biggest one was obviously in 2020 when we saw COVID happen and literally all of us went inside. Now, this is probably pivotal to behavior change in the last 5 years. We've changed, like even people working, they now work from home. That was not a thing prior. So we see the way people work. Therefore, if they're working closer to home, they're probably supporting their communities around them a lot more than what they were before. So we're seeing the CBD, like I know I'm from Sydney, so we're seeing like the CBD is like dead. But I'm in Western Sydney, so like they're all thriving and businesses out here are thriving, which is great. But it's also like there's a hit or miss, right? Behaviors change. People have more time in the day. Like, are we online more? Like all of these things are really impacting the way that we make choices. It also forced people inside and they got to really see their value alignment. So we saw how people acted. We got to see people in a different light, and this really changed where we're at right now. So this is important because it aligns very much with what's happening in the world at the moment and why we need to know. So I don't know if anyone knows, but the US dropped their DEI. So DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. They dropped their DEI initiatives in the States, Target did, and Costco doubled down on it. What we saw was a direct correlation of spend with the consumer. So the consumers, this is from February. This is right after it happened. Target lost something like 12.8% in stock. And then the Costco gained 8.3% in their stock, in, people just removing their stocks and investing in certain places. So this is actually a direct correlation of people spending by values. And then we look at Tesla. So obviously Elon Musk has even gone down even more after this and whatever's happening with him at the moment. But, a very progressive, like super in front of the game brand, valued at a lot of money, and then all of a sudden, because of some things that he aligned with, the consumer, and primarily his audience, I should say, a progressive audience, and then he went the other way. This isn't political from me, just his perspective, is that he went against his own audience here, and his own audience went, nah, and they've tanked him. I'm actually really interested to see where Tesla goes, but that's a direct correlation. So you can say things as a business owner, but you just need to be willing to put your money where your mouth is, okay? Then we saw Kendrick Lamar in February. We saw his streaming numbers surge by 40% after his Super Bowl performance. So, this was obviously hit or miss for a lot of people. It sparked a lot of conversation, but what it did do is it brought impact because all of this was, again, values aligned. So you either were with it or you weren't, but obviously it sparked a big impact in his music. So 40% after, which is pretty nuts. So 82% of consumers want a brand's values to align with their own. This doesn't mean you need to get up and be all like, activism. Like, that's not what it's about. But it is about just being true to who you are. So, if you're all about local and buying local, then you would invest in local community, right? You would invest in the local area and you would show up in that way. If you're all about family values, then you would have, policies within the business that allowed, I don't know, pay parental leave or something, you know what I mean? So it's just showing that you actually put action behind the values, but 82%, so that's pretty massive. But something else that's really important, especially for you guys, is that in the next two decades, we're going to be seeing what's considered the Great Wealth Transfer. Has everyone heard this? Anyone heard about this? Yeah, okay, so cool. So what's happening, right? It's going to be a transfer of wealth from baby boomers to millennials and Gen Z. They're estimating $68 to $84 trillion in wealth will be transferred from baby boomers to the younger generation over the next 2 decades. So with that isn't just value alignment, it's actually like spending where their money, like, right? So it's like it's like financial shift with their values. So we're seeing, I know I am very different in thinking to my parents. So how I spend my money is very different to how my parents would spend their money. To give you an example, my husband and I, when we were in Prague, spent like 2 hours finding a specialty coffee joint just so we could have a good coffee. While my mum had like a, Nescafe in the hotel room with that kettle. Would never advise to drink from the kettles in the hotel rooms, by the way, either. Gross. So, that's just the differences in just a tiny little smidge. But that's a massive hit. So you'll see cross-generational appeal. So a really good example of, I guess, how you could do cross-generational appeal, Disney do it all the time. So if you haven't seen, they will bring or release a movie that we know and they will remake it for the next generation. So the generation of that story can carry through from the parents. Now, see, they're doing it with How to Train a Dragon. Is anyone excited about that? I don't know about my kids, but How to Train a Dragon is coming out. I think it's this week. And I'm really excited about that. And my son is as well. So we're doing that whole thing. But I think that that's really cool because then you kind of grow with the movie. But it's the same thing with this, right? So brands that create positive and engaging experiences. So this is what I was talking about before with that customer experience, that brand experience. So it's not just about what you sell now, it's about the environment that they're coming to get from you, right? So if any of you guys have a shop, or a seller or whatever, and they're coming there, you know that it would be about that experience. How are they experiencing that when they come in? What's going on there? How is it different to the other ones that are around? Like, what are they doing differently? I'm sure most of you already know. I don't really know what you would think about it, but it's is it Good Pair Days? They're like yeah. So I had that for a while, and they started at the Wine Gallery. I was like an OG, so they had that, and then they changed to Good Pair Days, and it was an awesome rebrand. So you start with a quiz, and then they pick your wine choice. They asked by the flavors that you liked, and then they ended up choosing the wine that you thought you could choose red or white or rosé or whatever it was at the time. And then basically you got like a recipe card. So it came in the mail. You got 3 every month, and it came with a recipe card of what that wine went with. Every second or third box, you got like a gift with purchase. It was just kind of cool. On your birthday, they would give you an extra free bottle of wine. So it was like these little things that those tiny little touch points that you would get. But there was no one else doing. There was other wine subscriptions, but they were like not the same. This was like, to me, it was like the first one where it felt like young. It was like kind of vibey. Like it had like funny, you open it up, and it had like a funny, let's wine all day or wine and dine all day or something, whatever, written on the inside of the box. So it was kind of those little touch points. It's like that whole unboxing experience. So it wasn't just about getting the bottle of wine. It was the whole experience online, finding all about you, going through that process, the navigation of the website, choosing the price range as well was interesting. And then obviously choosing the wine, getting the wine, but also getting all these extra things that you didn't consider. So it was like, you got the recipe card. I've still got them all in the cupboard. Not that I will ever use them. I'm like, hey, when I ever buy this wine again, I'm going to use, and I never did, but now they're just junk, but cool. They're there if I need them. Or they gave you like a wine cut. It was like fig jam, like stuff like that you got. And it was just cool. It's like, obviously I'm still talking about it. So that's kind of what you want. You want to be able to create those experiences. Has everyone heard of Stanley Cup? Yeah. So basically Stanley, and we know, is obviously in charge of the Stanley knife as well. Stanley have been around for like 110 years or something, but it's only been in the last 5 years that they went astronomically well. So what happened was they had a bunch of 2 women or 3 women, obviously I thought it was 2. Yeah, there's 2. Who had a blog, a parent blog, and basically they were stealing their husband's Stanley Cup to drink out of because it kept their drinks cold. And all they did was like blog about this cup. And what happened was, because they had such a huge audience, was all of these other women went out and bought these cups. So they became unofficial influencers of this brand. And what happened was Stanley realized that they completely missed a whole market. And now look at them. They've got reskinned all their Stanley Cups, and they're targeting young women who walk around with these stupidly, ridiculously massive cups. Sorry if you have one. Just to, have a bottle of water but they keep them cold. However, one thing that I think is really cool is, I don't know if anyone's heard about this. They're on TikTok, but in 2023, I think it was, this girl's car burnt down. I don't know what happened. There was no actual backstory there, but her car burned down. It was on fire. And when she went back to her car, her Stanley Cup was there with ice still inside. So the whole car was burnt to smithereens except this one cup, and it still had ice inside. So obviously she shared it to TikTok. It got natural impressions everywhere. It was like their own marketing campaign that they were even unaware of. And so what the CEO did, you know, natural halo effect, so do something good, it ricochets across the brand. They bought her a new car, basically because they made a shit ton of sales off the back of this, you know, free impression, and she got a new car out of it. So it's kind of like this funny story of her car burnt down. I like ice inside. Like, I mean, still think that's crazy, but what a product sale, if ever. So what happened after that was that their sales grew by over 275% in a 4-year period. Women now account for 3 out of 4 of their Stanley Cup purchases. The Stanley Quencher tumbler alone generated over $750 million in revenue in 2023. 1 year from a cup, from a blog as well, right? And obviously paired with this chick. So both of them women related, which I found really interesting because it was a masculine brand. Their drinkware category surged from 50% of their business to 90% after their repositioning. And their Instagram following grew from less than 50,000 to over 1.5 million. And then their retail distribution expanded by 500% because obviously they were no longer in just like camping and outdoor stores. They were in like Target and everywhere, you know, direct to consumer. So moving on to Lego. Does everyone know that Lego nearly went out of business in 2003? Yeah, guys like, yep, I knew that. Okay, so what happened was they were on the brink of bankruptcy, and mainly it was because they were diversifying. They were trying to like stretch themselves thin, and they put themselves in like, I don't know, theme parks and doing all these stupid things, and they stretched themselves too thin and they were losing something ridiculous. It was like $8 million a day or something they were like siphoning out of the business. And so what they actually did was they got really needy. They didn't know what they needed to do, and they reached out to the AFOLs. And so that's basically what we consider their adult fans of Lego. And with this, they realized that they were missing a huge mark because these guys are builders and creators and engineers, and they were spending not $30 like parents do on their kids' Lego because they will just leave it under the lounge anyway, but really spending like 500 plus on a box of Lego. And some, like I went to my friend's house, she's got so much Lego that I needed to keep my kids at least 8 meters away because I felt really bad. But so much Lego that it was like, they were like, this is what the brand is. So they knew their brand better than, you know, I'm gonna close this window, better than Lego knew their brand. So they got them to involved in the process. And by doing that, they actually asked them to give them ideas, to innovate. And the brand was built again from the ground up with the advice from their audience. And let's move on. What's going on here? I've got too many windows open. No, not yet. Wait.
20.
That's not yet. That was too premature. Basically, what they did was they found that they managed to do a community. So they've got like a whole thing where you can pitch in and submit your designs. They've got a whole bunch of creative fans included in their product development, and they listened to what they wanted. And this is where I was getting with that before I jumped the gun there. They've got a whole ambassador program, and with that, they established a whole new brand identity in, I think it was like last year, the year before, where they built their visual identity off the back of this brick system. Now I will play the video. Everyone have the sound on? There we go.
26 letters arranged in different ways can create poetry, lyrics, or novels. And 7 notes arranged in different ways can create jazz, classical, and even punk. 6 bricks arranged in different ways? What does that create? A foundation for our new LEGO brand identity system. This timeless appeal comes from 2 key aspects: the system in play, where every LEGO brick fits with others, and the endless possibility of creativity. The LEGO brand's incredible success led to a unique challenge, ensuring consistency and connectivity in our diverse ecosystem. But first, I want to tell you how this small red brick shaped the LEGO brand for decades. Because the very first LEGO brick ever made looked exactly like this. And kids and adults all over the world have been playing with it for how many years? Oops. Exactly. The brick has been at the core of the Lego brand. We built our brand with it, and now we are rebuilding our brand from it. We have built a flexible design system that seamlessly clicks into our diverse Lego experiences. One visual identity to connect them all, naturally shaped by our little famous friend here. We've simplified over 110 Lego design principles down to 5. These inspire our unique identity elements, which express who we are. The clutch system is a digital replication of the classic way Lego bricks work. With the clutch system, you can easily build all kinds of shapes, illustrations, and anything you can imagine. Next, also based on the Lego brick and our heritage, we introduced the first Lego brand typeface. We call it Lego Typewell. Made in 129 different languages, also inspired by the brick. Hello, my name is Bryce. What's yours? We also have our action graphics, which add dynamics, drama, and emotion to storytelling. And of course, they're made of bricks. A brush up of our Lego color palette. From now on, we will only build in black and white. Nah, I'm just kidding. We love all our colors. And we won't change a thing. But we do have a color we're especially fond of. You get the point. Inspired by how people play with our bricks, we made a set of motion principles to build Lego DNA into how we move. This move is called connect, separate, drop. You feel me? The new identity elements already drive cohesion and recognition into everything we design, honoring our products. This allows creativity to flourish in display as well as in play. Oh, I completely forgot. Let's look at these 6 bricks again. Now, if I arrange them in every combination imaginable, what possibilities does that create? Oh, thanks, Bryce. You're welcome, Bryce. Yeah, wow, right? It's kind of a lot. But does it really matter? With this new design system, what you create, that's what matters. It's your imagination. It's your creativity. This is not the end. This is just the beginning.
So I really like that ad because it shows all of the moving parts of, quite literally, of the brand. And so they've started by using their brand DNA to build out their visual identity. So you can see how they've positioned themselves. Obviously, they've got enough recognition for everyone to know that yellow and red is Lego. But what they've done is you can see when people look at a visual identity, because identity has actually moved on, we're looking at movement included in the way that we would look at a visual identity now. So it can be the way that you film something. So if you're filming content, it could be the way that you cut a video or the way that you edit a video. You guys can all, if you want to jump on later on, have a look at the pinned video that I've got there. It's like an absolute piss take. And it's done deliberately and it's had a lot of good feedback. And it's done deliberately to break that, I guess, the monotony that's been done. And it's important to kind of figure out what your style is. So don't replicate someone else's, do it from your own. But you can see from this one, they've actually created from the start. I'm not telling you to go out and to completely design a brand like Lego. They've got one. This is done by Interbrand, which is the best brand agency in the world. But also, it just goes to show you all of those little moving parts that they've used to create and establish their brand identity or their visual identity for their brand. And even the way that they filmed this case study shows you their tone of voice and their personality. So what type of personality do they have? You obviously know they're witty, they're a bit funny, there was a bit of quirk involved. And so that you can see that that's coming through everything that they do. It's not just, you know, one person that shows that. So that's the Lego and how they've transformed that. So they obviously transformed from near bankruptcy to become the world's most valuable toy brand, worth over $7.8 billion today. So, you know, from $800 million in debt to $7.8 billion, you know, they got back around. And annual revenue grew from $1.3 billion in over 2005 to $8 billion today. And they've been named the world's most reputable company multiple times. I think we all know Lego if we see Lego. So we look at product, but what about service? So MailChimp, Now, most people are using that. Does anyone use MailChimp? A lot of people kind of start off with MailChimp. It's an email client. So if you can do email marketing, it's like got like the design aspect to it. But it started like with, just, selling all this stuff, but they did this whole rebrand. And so instead of looking like every other, tech company out there, they decided to bring in this whole element of creativity. So one, using a sans serif alone is very different to, most tech companies out there, but they brought in this whole element of storytelling. So this like illustration style, the way that they spoke to their audience, like all of this stuff came in, which visually differentiated them from any other tech company that was like doing this type of stuff. So they had massive like kickback from this. I remember when again, another really great branding company did this. What did I did? I did that right. Yep. So over 11 million active users. They've had 4 billion emails sent daily via their platform. They're all built through word of mouth, which is pretty crazy, rather than massive ad spending. Now that's what we want to hear, isn't it? So that's a really good indication that just by doing a different look and feel can completely shift the audience perception on how they would deal with you, regardless of your product. It's really interesting how persuaded we are by marketing, by the way. So now we look at media diversification. So if you're finding it really hard to market right now, there's good reason for that, because it's no longer traditional media. We've moved from, TV, radio, print into an array of different platforms that literally overwhelms everyone. So we're looking at the way of where's the best place for you to be showing up. I would say wherever your audience is. And you do that through an understanding of demographics paired with psychographics. So your demographics, you would have heard this: age, sex, location, all of that type of stuff. And that's the who of your audience. But what you actually need to be focusing on now is the psychographics, and that's the why. So with this, you may have more in common with someone overseas in a completely different area, different gender, different bloody language than you would with someone who may live next door to you that fits the exact same demographic profile, because you both like the same thing. So it may be that, you're interested in gaming, for instance, and this gamer likes what you do and you both have a lot of similarities, and you would be more than likely to have a better conversation because you like very similar things, rather than forced conversation with your next door neighbors who just so happen to be the same age. So it's important to know the demographics, but it's really important now to know what the psychographics are. And to give you an example of that, we're talking like beliefs, you're talking about, what they value. You're talking about, all of these things. Like, even if you know that you're hanging around people that are very much brand orientated and they buy certain things and they dress for status, then you're going to know like what that's like to be there. But then you also have friends that may just don't care, right? So then there's a whole different group of friends over here that just do not care about that stuff. I'm that group of friends, ironically, are now in brand. I do not care about that stuff at all. So someone will be like, oh, hey, look at my new Chanel handbag. I'm like, that's great for you. Do you like my shirt? I got it in Portugal. You can't get it. See ya. So it's like really finding the type of person that you are, the type of friends that you want to hang around with, but knowing that in your audience. Don't be afraid to not attract everyone. You don't actually want to do that. You kind of would rather weed out people, lose some people, and focus directly to the people that you're trying to attract. Because if you can actually speak to them on a level that goes way further, like way deeper, you're going to build a connection with them, which will then build your community and the culture around your brand. Come on. Why is it not working? There we go. So another one that's really ballsy brand, like I would be like, whoa, you got to have some money behind you if you're going to do something like that. But yeah, Ben & Jerry's do have money behind them. So they're looking at, they put very, very out there things. They're very much about social justice. So they will post things like this all the time. Their ice cream, their products are named after certain movements that are going on. They will obviously call out things as they happen. So they are very much putting their money where their mouth is. So their community know that. They also have a whole stack of haters, by the way. So don't be afraid to be hated. It means you're obviously doing some things right in some places. For every hater, you have a lover. And so what you would look at is when consumers see your brand, they're obviously asking you, does this align with who I am? Does this connect with me? Does this connect me to a community that I want to belong to? And does this stand for something meaningful? People look at this and go, I buy Who Gives a Crap toilet paper. One, because they got really cool designs on their toilet paper. But also, if I'm going to buy toilet paper and they're contributing to helping other people in third world countries have better sanitary for toileting, like, go nuts. I'm going to buy toilet paper anyway. I may as well have some altruism chucked in. So it's like, that's what people are thinking about. What are their values? If you're at the shop, what are those like little things that may make someone just like buy from you? Like, is it embedded in? What type of people are they? Think about what your consumer actually really wants and then build that into the brand that you're building. So the most successful brands today, they're identifying communities with shared values. They create content that speaks authentically to those values. They deliver through channels where these communities naturally gather, and they build engagement through relevance, not just interruption. So when you're looking at this, and this sounds like a whole bunch of waffle, what I would say here as an example is if we're talking about creating content that speaks authentically to those values, I was just working on a brand where they sell like a baby hip hugger thing. You just talk to mums. That's all you do. Like in that case that she's talking to mums, she talks to mums. She talks about their problems, trying to rush out the door. She talks to like silly memes, like things like that speak directly to that target audience only. So if you don't have kids, you scroll on by. If you're a dude, you're not interested in that stuff, you scroll on by. I mean, if you're a mum like me and your kids aren't little anymore, you scroll on by. But she's talking specifically to the audience with young kids, and she talks directly to that target audience. Everyone else doesn't matter. So get really specific on who it is that you're talking to. It doesn't matter if people don't like you, because if the people that do, who you're trying to target do, trust me, they've got 50 other people that they're around who they are, because that one person that you're selling to tells their friends, and people buy from who their friends tell them to buy from. So if someone's like, oh, hey, I bought this bottle of wine, I can guarantee you if my friend told me that, I'd just go buy the bottle of wine. I wouldn't even look at the marketing. So if you could get yourself a really good group of people, you could probably sell through their friendship group. Before I start this one, this is an ad by Dove. Go back. There we go. So this is an ad by Dove, and I just kind of ran through that. They nail the community aspect, and they've been doing this since 2004. So I'll show you this and then I'll talk about it. Just wanted to kind of give you the preface first. Where is it? There we go. So obviously that was targeted at women, but it's also talking about the ongoing beauty narratives that, they use in that space. But Dove have been doing this for years, obviously since 2004. So this said a few things. One, it showed their values. It also showed their brand equity. So they've been talking about this same conversation since 2004, that AI is able to now generate an image based off their marketing campaigns, which is pretty cool. But it's showing how they're just selling skincare, but they're also they're selling a much bigger thing. They're selling their contribution to the narrative that they're giving as a beauty brand, right? So they directly challenge one of today's biggest cultural tensions: AI generated perfection versus authentic human connection. So, in regards to results with Dove, they have a consistent growth in a saturated market, a 60% increase in brand value, and a 96% positive sentiment rating on social media. That is so astronomically high, which means that people really, really value their narrative. So it could just be the stories you tell that create a lot, the movement. So building brands that connect today is story, obviously, and you hear people talk about story, but it's just the stories that you tell. It could be that you go for a walk outside and you're talking about how you got to work that day. People really love fly on the wall content. So when I say that, this, you can thank TikTok for that, but basically, like, TikTok has just become like, think of it like, and I know it's really annoying, think of it like you're entertaining someone every day that you're showing up. And it's so annoying. But I say to someone, goes, I don't really know what to say. Do you know what I said? One of my most successful things on my own personal brand I did a couple of months ago, went off because I was talking about the school run and how I just didn't drive to school. I drove back to the gym and my kid was in the back going, where are we going? And I was like, oh shit. No, like completely that was a story that I told, the most mundane, boring story. But what happened was everyone's gone, oh my God, I've done that. Oh, I've done this before. I did this. And they share their own experiences of these everyday challenges. So it's actually those things that connect people. It's not these big audacious, oh my God, I've done this amazing hike of Machu Picchu. Like, it's more like I did this dumb thing today, and someone goes, oh my God, I've done that before. And that's where you're going to build community, at that base level of conversation. So when I say story, I mean, talk about these things every day on the way. And you know what? If you guys are behind the scenes, and like, talk about that stuff, because we're not behind the scenes as consumers. What are you doing? I have a builder, and we used to do all of their stuff behind the scenes, and people loved it because we can't walk on that building site. We're not allowed to walk on the building site. So what are you doing behind there? I'm intrigued. I'm curious. Tell me what's going on behind there. The thing that worked for us in the story the other day was the fact that my sister works with me. So we can say things. I've got a piece of content that we're about to do. We can say things that is going to push boundaries that others can't do. For instance, we're going to do this pretend argument that I haven't completed a project that she wants me to complete. And then I'm going to be like, yeah, well, you're an accident. So like this real, like, below dry humor kind of stuff that no one else could do. But people will find that funny, and it aligns very much with our personality. And they will be like, whoa, was not expecting that dry humor. And that's where you'll make that connection. So it's kind of like, what are you doing that people are what do your friends love you for? Like, what do your friends love you for? Like, that's the type of personality you want to be bringing in. You've got to look at a brand like it's a person. So the story refresh basically means updating your story to emotionally connect with today's cultural values. So what's happening in today? Everyone's overwhelmed, everyone's tired, everyone's over it. Like, what are those conversations that you can bring to the table that people can resonate with? The value transparency is just be clear about what you stand for and also what you don't stand for. Community building, creating spaces with genuine connection with customers. What can you do that's different, or like put on a day? So I'm thinking about creating like divergent dinners, basically, for the neurodiverse community to come and have a conversation. I don't know if anyone's on social media as much as I am, but they've got like these professors in the States, and they go to like these bars, and they like run these seminars at night, and they all just drink beer and listen to a lecturer from a university talk about a random subject. And I'm like, that sounds like so much fun to me. So like, what can we do in those spaces that other people will value, and bring them into person? Because when you have in-person experience, like, leaps and bounds above competitors any day of the week. And then obviously tying right into the experiential authenticity, which is basically the experience, true experience, like, be real. So delivering experiences that reflect your stated values. That right there is the stated value, is providing a space for neurodivergent people to have a conversation about business. That's what that would be. So then we look at, I've got, my little button isn't working. So is that right? Yep. So basically the premise is adapt or die. So we're kind of looking at it now like Blockbuster versus Netflix, if you guys know what Blockbuster is. But yeah, we're looking at like, they didn't evolve. Netflix even went to them and offered them the pitch, and they were like, no, thank you, we're fine. And they were like, okay, and then like smoked them. So it's like, what's happening? Don't put your head in the sand. See what's happening in the industry. what conversations are we having around, especially, we're looking in wine, we're looking at drinking culture change. So if people are looking at how they drink wine, how are they drinking wine? I will always go for a bottle of wine, so there's no drinking culture issue in my space. But if we're looking at, what does that entail? Are people drinking it for special occasions now? Are they looking at having it, like as a once off, or are they having it every week? Or what do they consider it? Like, what are they choosing over it? And a perfect, I will talk about a perfect case study at the end, which can give you some ideas. But basically, evolve and see how it goes. What we're looking at now. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, sorry, Tara. I'm just going to jump in there because at the end of the day, the Australian wine industry has such a rich heritage and also, wine throughout Europe and throughout the world. So we are considered kind of, that premium luxury
Top
product,
notch.
not really known so much for adaptability because, the greatest houses in all of France have that legacy and that history. So yeah, do you have any kind of commentary around, wine as that product? Yeah, because we aren't specifically known for huge adaptations. And if we do want to say plant a new variety that we think is interesting, we need great time and a lot of capital to do that. And you
Yeah.
won't see that return for at least another, 5 to 10 years. So do you have any commentary around that for the
Perfect
wine
commentary. It's
industry?
coming right up for you.
Oh.
Yeah, perfect case study. It's I'll go exactly through it because that's what I meant. Like, I'm like, this one's perfect for you guys. But before I do that, like, we're looking at the old school was like aspirational, which is like buy this to become someone better, versus affirmational, like buy this because you already belong here because of who you are. It's kind of like where everything is moving, hence community, belonging, all of that type of stuff. So that's why culture and community is really important, because they want to belong somewhere because they have the same values. So coming back to what you said, have a look at some things that you can have a look at your brand now would be to conduct an audit across the board of what it is that you're saying, where you are, how many places that you're in, what are people looking at. Have a look at your competitors. That will be like, everyone is like, I don't want to look at my competitors. Look at your competitors. Please look at your competitors. It's not about copying them or doing what they're doing. It's about finding out what they're doing so you can do something so left of field that's different to them and plot the difference, right? Map your community, find out who your community is, and then obviously look at the conversations that you're having. So tying back in what you said then, Jenna, I'll come back. But what we're looking at is, has everyone heard of Liquid Death? Great, perfect. Liquid Death sell water in a can. So very similar to, I would say, probably the perfect product to use as an example for you guys. But they started this business with a $5,000 budget and $1,500 of that dedicated to ads. So what they actually did was they transformed water, which is the most boring product category ever, into what we would probably consider to be a cultural phenomenon through irreverent marketing that mocks like energy drinks and alcohol. So they're heavy metal. They've got like a heavy metal aesthetic. They use people like Travis Barker. They've used Steve-O from Jackass, if you guys know who that is. They've got Burton snowboards. They team up with these really cool social collaborations. And what they've done is they've pretty much just rebranded water to be cool and changed the category so that when you go out to the pub or whatever and you get this water, it doesn't look like you're drinking water. It looks like you're drinking a beer or an energy drink. So much so that they've actually had to put warning signs on work sites because the bosses thought that they were drinking energy drinks when they were like, the tradies were drinking energy drinks on the work site. So their tagline is called Murder Your Thirst. But the cool thing about this is that aluminium cans are more sustainable than plastic. And so that's their environmental skew, but that's actually not what they lead with. So it's almost like they're strategically disguising environmentalism as entertainment by allowing consumers to signal values while also having fun. So what makes them really good is their packaging, right? So obviously they've got a skull there. Everything about it doesn't look like a water. Like they outgrew the second, I think the highest ranked water brand on Instagram. I think it was Evian at the time. They beat them within 3 months of launching their brand. They're on track to be the fastest growing beverage brand in history. That means outdoing Coke. So I'll show you a few of their things because it's really cool. So the stats are that they've made a $1.4 billion valuation by 2023. They started in 2018. Let that sink in for a little bit because that's massive. They're a 500% revenue growth in just 3 years. They're 89% organic social media growth, an audience that's 73% under the age of 35. This is water, by the way. And a merchandise accounting for 10% of revenue. And they've shifted 100 million purchases from plastic to aluminium. So basically what they've done is they just made their brand cool and people wanted to buy it. So actually, when we're looking at, if you're looking at it from a wine point of view, think about the modern day consumer and how you can shift your wine to target the consumer that's going to buy it to be cool. Because there's lots of people that still have money that, like, I would say we could find a pocket for so many different wine brands. The question is, who's willing to do it? Because no one wants to do the thing that hasn't been done yet. So a branding project is not syncing a whole new product line. Like, you can't do that with wine. That's just, like you said, it's just unsustainable. You can't do that. But there is definitely ways that you can target an audience, and you can test this as well. You can test it with different pieces of content. You can test it with different colors, and you can just kind of drip feed some things out to see what hits. Do things in real life, release a promo version or something like that to see how you go. There's ways that you can kind of test it, but I can guarantee you now that if you create a personality driven brand, you will make some money. So it just requires some effort there. So the winners understand that our fundamental desire to belong and connect with their people emotionally, right? So basically, if you can create a brand that people feel part of and they can say that they're part of, it'll go really well. A good example of this, like using it in terms of marketing, was, has anyone seen the Beckham documentary? There's like a really cool, there's the David Beckham documentary, and in it, she's talking about how she grew up in like a working class, but her dad drove an Alfa Romeo. Yeah. And basically David Beckham's like, you're not poor. Like, you're not. And she's like, I am. She's like, and there was a big piss take on that. And so Uber Eats at the Super Bowl did this funny ad about using them in it, but you had to have watched the movie to understand what the dialogue was. And so what that meant was that it was called in-group bias. So have you ever been to a party and two people are having a conversation and they're laughing and you walk over and you're like, what are you talking about? You feel a little bit left out because they're talking about something. Essentially what you want your brand to do is create that conversation so someone wants to be part of it. A really good way you could do this is with a guerrilla marketing campaign. So you can go and dish out. So, perfect case study actually for that is Kendall Jenner and Triangle Swimwear. So they wanted to get Kendall Jenner in one of their swimsuits, and there was no way in hell they were going to get Kendall Jenner. So what they actually did was send all of her friends a free swimsuit and not her. So what happened was she called the brand and asked them to give her a swimsuit because all of her friends got these free swimsuits and she didn't get one. So she got FOMO. So then they got Kendall Jenner in their bloody costume and she promoted it for them. So that's what they did. They just used clever tactics around like small Australian brand that was never going to get Kendall Jenner, and they did by playing the strategic game. So that's something that you can do, is just get a whole bunch of people that you know that have some pull, like some good influencers in your space, to open, like even not in your space, maybe sitting on the outskirts, because it's not always about sitting in your positioning. So the way I've got a new PDF I've got out at the moment, like a series that you guys might like, but it talks about the four undiagnosed areas of positioning, right? So you've got the pain point, which everyone talks to. It's the pain point area. Then there's the underserved market. So you may be talking to, people that love wine and the wine connoisseurs, but what about the people that love wine but don't know anything about it? There's a whole area that people don't know anything about wine. Like, they know nothing about wine. So what if you were to target them? Because there's a whole bunch of people that don't know anything about wine. Usually the hens days that come up to the wineries and they all look nice at the start, and by the end of the day, they're absolutely trashed. Those guys, they're buying wine. So what is it that you can do that can target them? There's also delivery methods. So like the what do you call them? Good Pair Days that are sending stuff out in the mail. Like Dollar Shave Club did this as well. They just sent razors out every 3 months, and that's what people did because it was a mundane purchase. What that did was actually take the overwhelm away from having to buy the product. They didn't think about it. They just paid for the subscription and it came to their house. They did it in a different way. And then there's the combinations. So you can combine two things to create something different. So it's like just having that brainstorm on different ways that you can position yourself in the market. So to finish off, I've got a couple more slides, but this one's fun because this has got a video in it. So here at Your One and Only, our DNA phase, so like who we are, it doesn't start with mood boards. It starts with psychology. So when you understand the emotional space of your brand, the space that basically your brand owns, is everything else like your messaging and your visuals and your positioning becomes really clear. I want to show you one of the ads by Liquid Death, which I think is super cool. This is how they market their product essentially.
Liquid Death water took over me as the worst water.
Literally the worst water I have ever tasted.
Can we go ahead and get him wired up? We're just gonna put that right on the skin. Make sure it's up all the way.
Yes.
Okay, cool, thanks. Okay, go ahead. I'm not noticing too big of a difference.
That one didn't taste like anything.
Definitely gonna have to double back.
Oh man.
Forgot what the first one's pretty tasty.
Like the differences are very, very subtle.
So I guess the worst one though. Pick the worst water.
Okay. I think it was it? No, one of these was really bad, but it was in.
I think this is the liquid.
Alright. Oh man.
You were wrong.
Yeah, very wrong.
I guess Liquid Death isn't the worst water either.
It's not bad. I guess I was wrong. Not the worst water I've ever tasted.
I'm sorry. I will buy y'all's product now.
Liquid Death, officially not the worst water two guys from the internet have ever tasted.
It's probably my favorite ad, and I will show it everywhere. This is a quick thing if you want to download. They've got like a 4-day email series. If you guys want to look at like the positioning area, it goes into detail, so you can do a bit of a scan on that. Also happy to send you these slides and to send you anything else that you may want. But for now, do you guys have any questions? Please fire them away. I am happy to answer them. Like nothing you can say is silly, by the way. Wow, it's that time of night and you guys are like, nah, I'm done. Just let me go to bed.
Okay, I'll go. I have a question.
Yeah, go.
I guess we work in an industry that's super convoluted. Like if we talk about family, local, sustainable, we could probably talk about majority of brands in the Australian landscape. So do you have any steps to navigate, like how to figure out what something is that differentiates you and your brand that you can like push out and hopefully like resonate with?
Yeah. So what I would always say is, why did you start your business to begin with? Because we all know that starting a business is hard. No one's going to say it's just for money, because most people here probably realize that there's more to it than just that. But it will always be for something. For me, it was DEI. So for Your One and Only, it was that I noticed that there was a lot of women that would leave, have children, come back and not actually come back into creative roles. So that was a core area for me. Also lived on the outskirts of Sydney. So there was a lot of snobbery in the middle of the CBD. They were like, oh, you're from out there. And I hated that as well. So there was like a lot of these internal drivers that I was like, well, that's not fair. I was also neurodivergent, hated working in that space, and I wanted to kind of have my own environment. So these were like little triggers that helped me to establish creating something that I knew didn't exist. So they don't have to be anything massive. They just have to be done something in your way, because I can guarantee if you're doing something that you think is missing, that someone else is going to want to buy from you. So what I would say with the differentiation, and I think that this is it, is that you know what your differentiation is. It's just really hard to articulate it because it's done with so much emotion. And what is also at play here is a lot of bias. You're like, I remember starting and I'm in the game of brand and I was like, how the hell am I going to differentiate? And it ended up coming down to who I was as a person. People just liked the way that I showed up. They liked my personality. And it was like 18 months ago, our brand was like teal and white. And if you're looking at that now, I'm like, God, that is just so wrong. And now I look at it, I'm like, everything's aligned. You know, red's more rebellious, like it's black, like even the font choice was done, like the way that we show up, the way we cut our videos, like it actually doesn't have to be the product at all. I think everyone looks at the product as being the thing to lead. It's not. It's actually the brand that you build. I always say that if Taylor Swift was to come out with any other brand, anything, any product, they will buy it. They would buy it. She could go out tomorrow and be like, hey, I've created eyebrow waxing. Like, just go out and just wax your eyebrows off. And their Swifties would be like, yeah, let's go. And I'd be like, what are you doing? But she's got that much of a cult following that they would literally do what she wants them to do. That's brand. Brand is that people will buy whatever it is that you sell. So you're creating, you're beyond the brand, right? Is beyond the product. So what is the environment that you want to try and create? Like, what is the feeling and the vibe? So I would say, like, when you're looking at everyone in the industry at the moment, don't look at the wine industry. I know that sounds so weird. Look outside it. Look outside the wine industry. So if anyone's looking at follow skincare, like Go-To Skincare is very much in that space as well. To give you an example, guys, you're like, oh, no, I don't expect you to know that. Zoe Foster Blake's, Hamish Blake's wife, she's got Go-To Skincare was her brand. The stuff, that's just the way she does it. Like her skincare is called Oily Face and Normal Face. Like that's the name of her product. It's not like Cliniques, like multivitamin hydration, blah, blah, blah. Like, and that's what made it different, was because it was so simple and to the point. And sometimes it could be the wording that you have on your wine bottle. It could be that instead of describing it in a certain way, you just get really sarcastic with the way that you create the blurb. And then all of a sudden people are like, oh, this is a series. Oh, I want this one and I want this one and I want this one. You say it's a set of 4 and people will like hook, line, sinker over that. You know, it's like, how can you get creative about the way that you're actually selling this and packaging it up? And then you know that if you create a wine personality, that you could just go on for days and each of them become like their own little personas, and every new release that you have has its own thing. But what I would say is that just make sure that it connects with the reason that you started. Like, why are you in business? If it's to continue on a legacy, why are you continuing a legacy? Like, what does that mean to you? It might be family. It might be changing the industry. You know, you don't like the way that it's been done, or you don't think it's getting enough credit, or whatever that's the conversation you have, you know? And like, sometimes people think it's this huge, big conversation that you need to have. It's not. It's just be like, how do you make friends? I would say, if you were to go out and you were to meet people, how do you make friends with someone? That's essentially what marketing is. It's just selling yourself to make new friends. The brand is who you are, and the marketing is, how do I make friends? And the sales part is getting them to come on a date or go out with you. That's how I would explain it. So does that answer your question? I took like a massive scenic route there, but you know, that's just how I do things.
I feel like the scenic route is the only way to go with you. But you learn a lot along the way, right? You visit the farm.
We stopped off. We had an ice cream. Yeah.
We had a beer. Actually, we had a glass of wine. So I just want to go back to one of the points you just made, because I'm sorry if anyone else had a question. Some of us obviously have our own brands, and then some of us work within the larger brand. What are your tips around, you know, you can see, you know, you work in a big business, you can see where the brand needs to be, you can see the opportunities. What would be your strategies to going, you know, about getting everyone else on board, or everyone else to have a think about it? What would be in a larger structure where it is predominantly pale, male, and a little bit stale?
Yeah. I worked in advertising, guys. I worked in advertising. I don't know if you know that industry well. There's a whole series called Mad Men. Yeah, I know that feeling really well of working within that structure. First, it's political and really annoying. But that's actually more about communication, right? So there's a really good book that you can read called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I know that sounds really weird, but so basically in the first chapter, what they say is sell the idea like it's their idea, and then that's essentially what you do, right? So this person wanted to get into have a conversation with this bigwig at a company, right? And he couldn't get in to talk to him. So he finally got this call, and then the guy brought him in and he was like, come on, let's have a chat. You've got 5 minutes. So instead of talking about what he wanted to talk about, he scanned the room and he found a picture of his dog on his desk. And so what he did was talk about the dude's dog. And of course, when you talk about something that you love a lot, open up, you talk about them. I know that sounds really weird. Like, I've had to work my way from a lot of pitches before, but you have to talk about how it's going to impact them. It's the same way as how you would market to a consumer. Why do they care? The way I explain it is that we are the side character in everyone else's main story. So it's like, you know, you could walk down the street, you could fall over in front of a whole group of people, and you're going to be mortified for the rest of the day. Mate, I've forgotten about that 5 minutes ago. I'm like, oh, yeah, this guy fell over 2 seconds ago. Gone, left my brain, don't care. But to everyone else, you're mortified. 5 years later, you're like, that time that I fell down the stairs. Like, no one's going to remember that unless you're with a really bitchy group of friends, and they will bring it up for the rest of your life. But you know what I mean? Like, it's about selling the idea to someone bigger. You have to come in prepared, right? Stats, great. But also emotion is how you do it. It's through emotion. So find things that you know are working, or where things are going in the market. Find people that are doing it really well. But when you go in, like, it depends who you're talking to, right? If you're talking to marketing or the business owner, they want ROI. So how did that bring money in? So talk money, talk their language, right? You're going, this is great, we can build followers. They're like, don't give a shit. Are they going to buy? Are they going to buy from us? And if you know that that's what their driver is, you talk money. So find someone like, you go, oh, these guys brought in X amount of dollars by doing something like this. They're going to be more like, oh, okay, let's give it a go. So like, figure out what their motivations are. I know, and it is a bit of secret squirrel stuff, but like, figure out what their motivations are, and then you go hard on that subject when you pitch the idea.
Yeah, cool. I think Lauren has a question, or a couple questions maybe.
Yeah, shoot. Hey, Lauren, why don't you take your mic off and ask the question?
I can do that. My video needs to stay off.
That's okay.
I am just starting my own brand, and I guess just want to know if you've got any tips for how to find that, you know, that first kind of dip your toe in the water sale, to continue your fun analogy. Like, what's the Tinder for new brands? How do
LinkedIn. Get on LinkedIn. And why I say that is because LinkedIn's more about building personal brand. Another thing is business brand's very different to personal brand, right? So people buy from people. It's really hard to sell when people don't know who you are. So you're more than likely to buy from a person than you are from a business where you don't have a name. So when you get in, and that's why you'll see our face all over. One of the things that we have when people come to the website is, we really like your tone, and we like that you guys are everywhere, so they can see who they're talking to. With a business brand, it's hard because we're kind of hidden behind the scenes. So with the business brand, I would start by talking about what it is that you stand for, right? Like, you know, you just continuously tell that story over and over. And I would say anyone that's online trying to promote their business, there's a difference between brand marketing and tactical marketing. So basically, brand marketing is the long game. It's the story that doesn't change: who you are, what you do, what you're about, who you're here for, all the time. And then tactical is, hey, we've got a seasonal wine out, or, you know, this is coming up, or we've got, you know, winter warmers, or whatever the hell you guys are doing. But, you know, you have those like little in what I say, it's like you're running a marathon, and the marathon is the end goal. But to get to the marathon, it's like those little steps that you take. So what shoes am I running in? What training program do I have? Like, it's all of those, like, what watch am I using? What clothes have I got on? It's like all those are like little tactics to get further. What training races do I have? The end goal is the marathon, but you're doing all these little things to get there at the end, and you're testing it. So when you've got, I would say, get on LinkedIn and start having conversations, make connections with people. If you're wanting to stock your wine somewhere, have a look at those companies that you would like to stock your wine, if you do want to do that, and have a look at like partnerships and people that are in those businesses, and build relationships with them. That's more brand than anything, is relationship building. And then from your business point of view, and like, talk about the industry. Like, here's a good one for you guys. Is anyone on Google Alerts?
Yeah.
Haha. Get on Google Alerts and write down the industries and the things that you're interested in. What it does is it will send you, based on however often you like, information, news articles, anything that comes out across the whole internet, it'll send to your inbox on any subject. So if you start understanding what's happening around the world in wine or whatever it might be, then you start talking about that on LinkedIn as, oh, did you know that a new wine had been released in blah, blah, blah. They've done da, 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 da. You then become the news source for everyone else that doesn't know that stuff. That's how you build authority. So you find it first. When you start telling people the things that they don't know, that's when you start to build authority. And so then you get authority built with the brand that you're releasing, and they go, oh, they know their stuff, I'm going to use them. Or they know their stuff, I'm going to buy from them. Everything you're looking at is trust building. Relationships to sell internally, relationships to get consumers to buy, and also to build those relationships. Does that answer your question? She's like, Carter.
Kind of, yeah, it's helpful. I feel like the people that I want to sell to probably aren't on LinkedIn, but
I will give you full transparency. It's going to take some time.
Yes.
And I would start by building like groups. It could be, you could come up with a banging idea like wine parties or something, right? Where you like, come over, we're going to do like a wine testing, and you make this like a thing that people do. Like you make it more of an experience, and then people start talking about the experience, and then that's how you want it to spread. So whatever it is you want it to become a talkable thing. So whatever you can do, even if it's just like, or you could do what everyone else is doing, come with me as I build my brand. Come with me as I build my wine brand. And you talk about what you're doing, what you're coming up with, and then you get those people that will follow you at the beginning, and if you do really well, they're like, we were here from day one. They become like your advocates. It's really weird. That's what people are doing at the moment. I'm watching that a lot. That's some really good content. And people kind of champion you. They want to see you win. They want to see what you do. They want to see where you're going to be. They kind of get really involved. And so that's that whole narrative that you're building, right? People become invested. It's why people love Netflix series. They can binge watch a whole bloody 10-hour thing versus like, I'm not going to the movies. That's like a whole hour and a half, but I will watch 10 hours of Netflix back to back because I can. It's that whole, because you're getting that continuous narrative. But yeah, you can go on to click on my website thing, and there's a thing called the brand action plan, and it talks about all of the parts of a brand that you should look at, right down from name choice, legalities, talks about like brand personality, differentiation, just gives you like a little bit of a checklist. So then you can start to do some learning in each of the areas to know where you can kind of start.
I just wanted to note as well, I thought about it, like, yes, we have our own brands that we obviously have complete creative control over and input into, but we've also got regional brand building as well, because obviously, you've got key wine regions throughout Australia that produce particular varietals. So we actually have that behind us too in most cases, where you can, obviously Alana's got some Shiraz from Hilltops region. So like you can bring that brand narrative really into the story and make it work really well for you too. Not just our own personal branding.
Yep, 100%. Absolutely that. It's like collaboration, right? Like collaboration's good because you're getting like the best of both. If you can like use it where you can kind of share it. Like if you start doing good and you start building traction, people will want to work with you as well. People are weird like that. Yes, about us on the website, Jenna, is really important. Just know that when you're talking about us, you're actually talking about them. Just to throw a spanner in the mix. So when you're talking about us, make sure that you're talking about you, but you're saying it in a way where the person sees themselves in what you're talking about. I know that sounds really weird, but everything on that website, every time I was doing an audit for one of our events clients last year, and every single, like, I think I went to 6 different sites that said, we are your partners in events. And I was like, wow, so original. And that was the problem. It was like, we are, we do, we this, da 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 da. And if you think about by the time you're getting to the end of it, you're like, oh my God, they're just talking about themselves. It's like having a conversation with someone at a party that doesn't shut up about themselves. So what you kind of want to do is bring you into it. Are you someone that blah, 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 blah? I like ask the question, let them answer the question. Another psychology trick is, especially if you're trying to sell, people want to say no to you or answer a question. They want to maintain control. So start with a question of something like, are you wanting to change, or are you wanting a wine that works for you, or are you, whatever it is, get them to answer the question so that they've maintained control, because then they're more likely to listen to what it is that you have to say, especially in a sales process. But yeah, in the about us, talk about you, but do it in a way where someone can feel like, I know that's really hard. I'll give you something, Jenna, that you can send them later as an example. I'm like, that's how do I
Just on that, I think with Alana's brand, she's on mute and whatnot. They talk about their wine, and in their label, they talk about like it being, sessionable, slurpable, like that needs to be
yeah.
with friends, like so when you pick up that bottle of wine, like take it to a dinner party, you're not cellaring it. You're not anytime, Alana, but like that brand narrative's already there. So like I actually think it'd be quite cool if Lauren threw little dinner parties and maybe you had to purchase
Yes.
a dozen to get in, because like I'll be purchasing a dozen. I want to have dinner with Lauren.
But also, you could break that whole narrative down into 3 areas there. Would you say it was sippable, slurpable? What was the things you said?
Oh God, I can't remember. It was like 3 minutes.
Yeah, I know, it was like 5 seconds ago. But like that's like 3 pieces of content, right? Like, does anyone remember the tongue? Does anyone remember the Satisfaction like beer ad tongue? Like yeah, I mean, some of them might be too young here, but it used to, this is tongue. It came out of the bath and like it was gross, but like so memorable. But like the thing with that was it was talking about the taste. Like it's like, what can you do that's quirky and different? Like, you could have it like, so you're getting a bunch of girls walking in, there's like a whole narrative going on, and then you sit down with the lounge, and then she pulls the wine out of a handbag or something and sits like just so real, like so bogan, like, what you do, and you sit down on the lounge or whatever it is, and you just pour the wine like a girl's night. You'd be like sippable, and then you sit down, like that's it. It doesn't have to be this big audacious plan. If you're watching half of the things that are doing really well at the moment, it's just that conversation, it's the story, but also talk about it a lot. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I've already done this. I want you to talk about it until you're so sick of talking about it that you can't talk about it again, because when you think that you're talking about it too much, I can guarantee you I've not seen it. I've got online and I've seen about 80 things, and I don't even my friends aren't even in my feed anymore. So it's like you have to be really out there. And also SEO, just to kind of add a whole nother thing in, SEO is really big at the moment. Now that you probably think of SEO as being like, oh, that's just keywords. When I say that, there's now voice. So people are asking for things. Pinterest is a search engine. TikTok is a search engine. Instagram is a search engine. Google, you've got all of these micro social platforms now are search engines. And I've just noticed that Instagram have added something similar to TikTok, where they've got like those keywords at the top. So you want to be making sure that you're adding those keywords that you want people to be adding in, like best wine in blah, or whatever that may be. Like make sure that you're putting that stuff in the copy, in the caption, in like, so that people are actually searching for what it is that you do across the board. Like that stuff's going to be a game changer for you. I mean, authentically, right? Like you don't want to be like, best agency in Sydney. Like that sounds really lame. Also, what I do as a sneaky, if you're on your website, if you've got your own brand, is I just put the SEO text in the background color, and then people can't see it. So it's like really lame, boring copy, but it's like hidden in the background. That's my secret. You'll go to the website now and you'll be like, found it. If you select the whole page, but like that's the way you can get it on there without. Also images. If you're putting images up on your website, name the images. Ours is like Sydney Branding Agency _ Camden _ brand _ blah, 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 like with our names in it. Like that's the name, because Google can't find image number 7537 to rank you for wine. It needs to know that really long handle. So do that as well. That's also positioning, by the way. Is there anything I need to be careful of, as in what can destroy my brand? My whole brand is around taking the mickey out of my... Oh, I love that. No, I think okay. So, yes and no. I think you just do it in a way where you're doing it like, I think a really good scenario for this, taking the mickey, is what I do. I do this all the time. I do like scenarios. So I film myself talking, and then I film myself as if I'm talking to myself. And I do like this scenario thing, like where you're kind of like having this like conversation, but you're actually calling people out at the same time. So it's humor. And I think that if it's done in a way that's like really well done, people don't care. You don't want to let the emotion get like, so I'm really careful if a client does something and it really pisses me off. And then I'm like, I'm going to do a reel about it. And then I'm like, oh, better not put it out now. They're going to know that it's about them and I'll wait 6 weeks to do it. But it's like, you do those things like where the timing is important. What you're talking about is important, but also maybe at the end of it, go, does this bother you? And start a conversation about it. I think that these are the best type of content pieces at the moment, because what it is you're going to not attract the wine snobs. You're going to attract everyone else that thinks that there are wine snobs. And trust me, there are more of them around than the wine snobs. So I think it's kind of cool. That's what I would consider to be the underserved market of that. So I think you've pegged it. And things that are doing really well at the moment are those the challenger brands. So the sparking a conversation. So I think that if you're doing that and you feel really good about it, just know that for everyone that's going to take the piss out of you, there'll be 10 people that think it's really great. Just keep an eye on it with what's going on. I'm very vocal on some of the things that I do. So, but I also will go in with conviction. So, it is what it is. Just like, you're not going to go and slander anyone. So don't name names and just use it as a scenario piece and as a theoretical thing. It'll be fine. Anyone else? Cool. Everyone's like so tired. I can see it in your eyes. For everyone that's online anyway. Everyone else is like, stop looking at me. I am available if anyone wants to have a chat. Just slip into my DMs. I'm like totally fine to have a call with anyone who wants to have a chat or, kind of wants to throw down some questions. But there's a couple of freebies on the website as well if you want to have a look at that. Heaps of good shit in the podcast, because I'm like verbal diarrhea. I just feel like I want to talk about this today, and I just turn the microphone. There's no script. I don't script anything. It's just conversation. So, if there's anything you want to have a chat about, I'm totally, kids running around. Mine are in bed. Thanks, husband.
I hope mine are in bed. It's quite late.
Yeah, right.
But if there's no other questions, thank you so much, Tara, for coming on.
Oh, no worries.
About branding and positioning and your target audience. We'll pop together the slides and some of those value worksheets and brand worksheets on the website and send it around in an email tomorrow so you can do your homework, and then also listen to this webinar back if you want as well. But yeah, Tara will present to us in August as well. So she's coming back as there's part 2 of this, and we'll chat about the rest of the positioning too. So you have an opportunity to go away, think about what your brand looks like, what your unique selling propositions are, and how you want to attract your target audience. And you can always come back and ask her questions too. So if there's nothing else, thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
Oh, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, if it means you get out of doing bedtime, we will most certainly assist in any way, shape, or form. But other than that, thank you so much, Tara.
Awesome.
Just as a thank you as well from the Rootlings Network, we are going to send you some wine that
Rootlings
actually made. Yes. So you can have a look at their branding and things like that, because it's pretty exciting. And, you can find out more about them on Instagram or their website or whatnot. So thank you so much. And I will see everyone soon. We don't have a webinar for a little while. Our next happy hour is in early July with Liz Riley, who sits on the Wine Australia board, amongst many other things, and she's also a viticulturalist as well. So that's the first Monday of July, and then we do talking about turning your side hustle into your main hustle, which kind of connects with everything we've been doing, with everything Tara's been saying about creating a strategic brand, with everything that Kate, our careers coach, also talked to us about finding your values, what aligns with you, having that explorer's mindset. And so we're going to weave that all together and talk to 3 young people, well, youngish people in the wine industry who have actually turned a passion project into their full-time income. So we have 2 winemakers. We also have, I guess he's a wine influencer / distributor / writer / just sales / and then I'm also just seeing if one other person's available. So that will happen in about a month's time. So thanks everyone for being here tonight, and we will chat to you all soon. See you.